Why do we love anime villains? What makes these dark characters so fascinating to audiences worldwide? Let's explore the irresistible allure of anti-heroes in Japanese animation and comics. In the vast universe of anime and manga, while heroes shine with their noble ideals and unbreakable courage, it's often the villains who leave the deepest marks on our memories. Characters like Madara Uchiha from Naruto, Johann Liebert from Monster, or Pain from Naruto Shippuden aren't mere obstacles for protagonists. They're complex figures who challenge our very understanding of good and evil. But what exactly draws us to these characters? Why do we find ourselves rooting for them, even when their actions are clearly morally questionable? The answer may lie in how anime villains perfectly reflect the nuanced complexities of the human condition. While heroes represent what we aspire to be, brave, selfless, ethical villains show us what we fear becoming when our convictions are pushed to the extreme. They embody profound philosophical dilemmas, unresolved psychological trauma, and the eternal struggle between desire and morality. In this storytelling medium where narratives are crafted with remarkable depth, villains aren't just mustache-twirling bad guys. They serve as distorted mirrors reflecting society's flaws, individual struggles, and often uncomfortable aspects of ourselves. The first key to understanding villain appeal lies in their multidimensional complexity. Unlike cliched antagonists who seek power without reason, great anime villains act from motivations that could be considered noble in another context. Take Itachi Uchiha from Naruto. He slaughtered his entire clan to prevent a devastating war, willingly bearing the burden of being hated by everyone including his beloved younger brother Sasuke. His story is a Shakespearean tragedy about impossible choices, sacrifice, and unrequited love. Or consider Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. Beginning as the determined hero, his journey gradually transforms him into what many would call a villain. His driving motivation, securing freedom and protection for his people, even if achieving it means destroying the rest of the world. These characters force us to ask uncomfortable questions. What would I do in their position? How far would I go for my beliefs? Their extreme choices become understandable because they're rooted in universal human emotions: fear, pain, love, the desire for justice or vengeance. This emotional authenticity makes them not just intriguing fictional creations, but disturbingly relatable human portraits. Many anime villains become compelling because they're products of profound psychological trauma. Their actions, however cruel, emerge as understandable responses to unbearable suffering. Pain, also known as Nagato from Naruto Shippuden, exemplifies this pattern. Having witnessed his village's destruction, his parents' murder, and grown up amidst endless war, his philosophy of achieving peace through shared pain becomes a desperate cry against the world that brutalized him. Similarly, Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass presents as a sociopath, but also functions as a radical critic of a system that eliminates human individuality. His violent rebellion, while horrific, responds to genuine oppression. These backstories remind us that true evil rarely emerges from nowhere. It grows in the fertile soil of abandonment, injustice, or systemic despair. By showing us how villains are made rather than born, these narratives force us to confront our own potential for darkness given similar circumstances. This uncomfortable mirror reflects how thin the line might be between hero and villain in our own lives. The most thought-provoking villains introduce moral ambiguity by presenting valid critiques of their worlds. Light Yagami from Death Note begins with the arguably noble goal of eliminating criminals to create a safer world, though his methods quickly descend into horror. Griffith from Berserk makes the ultimate betrayal by sacrificing his comrades. Yet even protagonist Guts understands how Griffith's ambition and desperation shaped his monstrous choice. These villains exist not just to be defeated, but to make audiences wrestle with difficult questions. When does justice become fanaticism? Can noble ends ever justify horrific means? At what point does determination become obsession? The brilliance of these characterizations lies in their refusal of simple categorization, instead presenting complex portraits that linger in viewers' minds long after the story ends. Beyond psychological depth, many villains captivate through sheer charismatic presence. Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter needs no tragic backstory or grand philosophy. His pure love of combat and playful menace make him irresistibly entertaining. Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure radiates such delicious evil energy that his over-the-top cruelty becomes part of his charm. These villains succeed because they're simply fun to watch, stealing every scene with their unpredictable antics and memorable quirks. Their entertainment value doesn't negate their threat, but rather enhances it by making their appearances consistently thrilling. The greatest villains also serve crucial narrative functions by challenging heroes on ideological levels beyond physical combat. All for One in My Hero Academia represents the antithesis of everything All Might stood for, forcing protagonist Deku to confront fundamental questions about heroism's nature. Aizen in Bleach doesn't just test Ichigo's strength, but his maturity and worldview through elaborate psychological games. Without such formidable antagonists, heroes couldn't undergo meaningful growth. It's the villain's opposition that forges the hero's development. This dynamic creates the electric tension that makes their confrontations so memorable. Anime villains fascinate us because they embody the shadow aspects we often deny in ourselves: our capacity for anger, our hidden fears, our dangerous ambitions. They demonstrate how easily noble ideals can distort into fanaticism, how pain can twist into vengeance, how love can curdle into obsession. Perhaps their greatest lesson is that evil isn't some external force, but a potential within all humans when pushed to extremes by circumstance or choice. When we find ourselves sympathizing with antagonists, we're not just enjoying fiction, we're confronting universal questions about morality's fluid nature. How much would I sacrifice for my beliefs? What separates my choices from a villain's? This uncomfortable self-reflection explains why compelling villains remain so unforgettable. They hold up mirrors to our own souls. The global appeal of anime villains stems from how they embody universally relatable struggles. Whether it's Frieza from Dragon Ball representing the terror of absolute powerlessness, Doflamingo from One Piece showing the corruption of unchecked ambition, or Obito Uchiha from Naruto seeking meaning in unbearable loss, these characters resonate across cultures because they tap into fundamental human experiences. Their stories transcend language barriers to speak directly to shared fears and desires. Brilliant villain design extends beyond writing into every production element. Visual symbolism like Madara's godlike Rinnegan eyes, unforgettable voice acting like Dio's iconic Rai scream, or chilling musical themes like Aizen's Bleach soundtrack all elevate these characters from mere plot devices to cultural icons. These artistic choices amplify their psychological impact, making them linger in audience memories through multiple senses. Many anime villains also serve as vehicles for incisive social commentary. The Sybil system in Psycho-Pass critiques authoritarian surveillance societies. Code Geass's Britannia Empire mirrors historical colonialism's horrors. Death Note's Kira sparks debates about vigilante justice's morality. By grounding fantastical stories in real-world issues, these antagonists add layers of relevance that inspire discussions extending far beyond entertainment. From classic series like Dragon Ball to modern hits like Demon Slayer, compelling villains have always formed the emotional core of anime's most gripping narratives. They remind us that great storytelling isn't about simplistic morals, but about honestly exploring life's gray areas. The next time you watch anime, pay special attention to the villain's journey alongside the heroes, because often, it's in these dark reflections that we discover the most illuminating truths about human nature, society, and ourselves. Their legacies endure not because they were evil, but because they were heartbreakingly, terrifyingly, fascinatingly human. Hey there, I'm really glad you're here. Seriously, it means a lot. If you've ever found yourself needing a space to learn, grow, or just breathe for a moment, you're in the right place. Around here, it's all about sharing real moments, useful insights, and creating something that feels a little more human in a world that moves too fast. So if anything in this video speaks to you, if it helps you or even just makes you smile, please take a second to hit that like button. It really helps more than you know. And if you'd like to stick around and be part of this growing community, I'd love it if you subscribed. We're just getting started, and I'd love to have you on this journey. Let's dive in.